Okay, good morning. Welcome to Seattle Atheist Church. Welcome, atheists, agnostics, and believers in science. Today, we always switch that last part up, so if that sounds odd to you, it's because I'm going to be talking about the March for Science coming up. But whatever you call yourself, you are welcome here. At Seattle Atheist Church, we call ourselves an atheist church because you will never hear anything supernatural promoted from the podium. Our creed is that Seattle Atheist Church was founded on the principles of scientific naturalism and secular ethics. Truth claims are attempted here, and we stand ready to revise our thinking in light of new information. We attempt to be excellent to all conscious beings, and we believe in good because good works in non-mysterious ways. If that sounds good to you, then you are probably in the right place. So, can I find out who went to the Scotch and Beer Festival yesterday? All right. So yeah, we had a percussionist group that wanted to come and play today, and I said not today because I was thinking maybe after last night might not be a good idea. And today at your church we have a bike ride scheduled for anybody who saw that and brought their bike. We're prepping for the Cascade Bicycle Club Emerald City Ride, and I checked it out this morning. You can still sign up if you're interested in doing that. The route is going to go on I-5, I-90, and 520, so it should be kind of interesting. It's going to happen on May 28th. It raises money for safer, more connected biking infrastructure. And our last announcement, which I think is very important, is please join us next Saturday for the March for Science. So we're meeting at 10 a.m. at Cal Anderson Park in Capitol Hill, and the march starts at noon. So anytime between 10 and noon, but they're expecting a huge crowd of people. And in fact, the Children's Church right now are making signs, so if you would like them to make you a sign, they're downstairs and you could request a sign. So, let's see. So unfortunately our scheduled talk had to be postponed due to a family emergency, but on May 7th we're going to have a talk on moral compromises, the good kind though, and it should be an interesting talk. So today instead I'm going to talk about ageism. So I put this talk together a little quickly, my apologies, and I specifically did not have time to research issues of intersectionality between aging, gender, class, race, and things like that. But here at Seattle Atheist Church, we take our spiral approach to learning, and so we know we'll return to all of these subjects going deeper every time. So the first thing that comes to your mind when I say ageism, I'm sure, is discrimination against the elderly. But I mean the term more broadly as prejudice or discrimination based on a person's age. Consider that age categories are highly subjective. When I say children, what age child comes to mind? How old is an adult? Some people that's 18, some people that's like 23. Some people say old is 35. Some people say old is 80. So it's highly subjective. But the discrimination faced by different ages is largely because of the way that our society keeps people of different ages separate. We can imagine a world where all different ages work and play together and learn from each other and care about each other. So the first point I'd like to make is that ageism, regardless of which age group it targets, is dehumanizing. It's about one group's tribalism being too small to include anyone that they think is not like them. But when we work and play together, we change our sense of who is in the group and who is out of the group. So I think everyone in this room considers John to be part of our church, and we also have people who are like in their 70s and older in our church. But how many groups do you belong to which really include more than 6 decades of age span? The Women's March and pretty soon the Science March coming up, I know we'll have lots of different ages working together, but I think it's usually pretty unusual for our culture. And that's a shame. So here's a quote. So I found that there was a lot of fear around being older, but interestingly enough, also even by very young people. So a quote says, "The high cost of keeping our aging population healthy and out of poverty has caused the United States to lose their economic footing." And pitting the old against the young is an old tactic. Just pitting different groups against each other is a tactic that is used by those who have power. But the wealthiest 1% and the other 99% all consist of people of all ages. And the growing economic disparity is really within those two groups, not between the ages. In fact, historically, age has usually flown from wealthy grandparents down to younger generations more than the other way around. Grandparents also provide economic benefits to families, such as unpaid childcare. And I would say, even more important than that, I don't think anyone can, any paid childcare can really be the same as like your own family or your own friends. But 1 in 10 children in the United States receives a significant amount of care from a grandparent. So we cannot fall into the trap of thinking it's us against them when we're thinking about different groups. And then later on, I wanted to talk about older people. Older people, for this talk, are defined as people over 65, which is a very odd group. A group from age 65 to 105. But this is the group that activists like Ashton Applewhite is thinking about when she talks about aging. The group that she believes is most misunderstood. So she has a book called This Chair Rocks, and she starts off by all the fears and misconceptions she had about aging, and then goes on to talk about what she discovered when she became an age activist and started researching for her book and interviewing a lot of people, mostly in their 80s and on up. But 365,000 people in the United States turn 65 every year, and people who are 10 years old today have a 50% chance of living to be 104. So what is life going to be like for the last third of life? The blog This Chair Rocks is an excellent resource for information about other activists and groups that support aging and their families. And actually there were a lot of things that are here in Seattle as well. So if somebody is looking for specific kinds of resources, talk to me and I could help try to find them, mostly by looking through that blog. So the disrespect that we show people, we show people really across the age spectrum. So we discriminate against children. A few weeks ago, I talked about corporal punishment. And that's the absurd idea that hitting people is okay as long as they're children. We discriminate against teenagers. We hold them less capable than they really are. And recently on our private group, I've posted a link to Do Something, which is an organization that helps coordinate the efforts of teenagers who are doing service learning projects. In our culture, the depiction of teenagers in television and movies is that they are self-absorbed and that their only value is as consumers. And you can find evidence to the contrary. We discriminate against the middle-aged. We're not very good at having people of different ages work together, especially where the older person is not in the position of power. And that really affects people in the workplace. Socially, we begin to discriminate against people over 50, but it is much worse for women. And incidentally, in This Chair Rocks, she also talks about gay men as another category with a subculture that the more physicality is prized, the more dangerous it can be as you experience aging. So some examples from Hollywood which tell us about the social prejudice against older women. Harrison Ford, at 58 years old, his leading lady was 42. At 52, Denzel Washington's leading lady was 29. Johnny Depp, at 48, his leading lady was 24. Of course, 100 examples like this, but I just chose a few. Now, I happen to support the May-December relationships because I think that everyone should be free to love whoever they love. But I'm pointing this out as an example of a pattern of discrimination and something that really affects women like Susan Sarandon, Sigourney Weaver, and Kim Basinger. Women that if they were men would still be in the game. So speaking of an iconic woman aging out, Madonna recently posted a picture of herself in panties on Instagram. And this is the same Madonna who pioneered wearing your underwear in public. And the picture was so tame. Just some skinny legs, a very toned midsection, and modestly cut black underwear. But I found comments like, "Way to keep it classy and age gracefully, Granny." And, "How old are you?" "Old, right? You're sick." Now, I don't know the age of those responders or if they would have responded differently to Kim Kardashian posting herself in her underwear, but the insults are telling, right? The words that were chosen. "Way to age gracefully, Granny." That now that Madonna is in her late 50s, we shouldn't be seeing any more underwear pictures. We discriminate against people over 70 by assuming that they are less healthy and mentally competent than they really are. So the greatest fear that people have about growing old, and I personally would have guessed that it would have been about running out of money, but it's not. It's about getting dementia. More Americans fear getting dementia than fear getting cancer. And the term dementia is used to describe a set of symptoms that can include memory loss, difficulty thinking, problem solving, and issues with language. Dementia is caused by damage to brain cells, and Alzheimer's is just one of the most common causes of dementia. With over 60% of dementia cases are Alzheimer's. It can also be caused by things like Huntington's disease and Parkinson's. But some forms of dementia are treatable, and it can be caused by reduced blood flow, subdermal hematomas, which is blood on the brain, dehydration, side effects of medication, vitamin deficiencies, heavy metal poisoning, and not getting enough oxygen. The reason I mention this is because sometimes when people get dementia, if we assume that it's a natural part of aging, then we don't have the doctor look into what might be a treatable cause. Dementia rates have fallen 30% since the early 1990s. So, and it is true that studies show that older people have one type of reduced cognitive function. Their speed slows down and they have trouble recalling things that they know quickly. So they forget people's names, the date, and where they forget their car keys. This is something that 20-somethings do all the time without any worry. Now, the studies show that this decline is real, but they also show that people over 70 have amassed more knowledge over a lifetime, and they have a better ability to synthesize knowledge. So on speed tests, they will fail. But given time, older people can figure out how to do things, and do things like writing books, designing buildings, and writing public policy very well. So, in fact, some of the greatest work done has been done by people over the age of 50. And Malcolm Gladwell wrote a New Yorker piece called Late Bloomers. You'd be really amazed by the beautiful things. Maybe you wouldn't be, but I hope you wouldn't be. But, for example, the Guggenheim Museum was, that architect did that in his 80s. And if you, like I do, spend a lot of time online, there's a lot of contests for things under 30, looking for the, best in the field under 30. And it would be understandable if you received the idea that if there was any genius, there'd be signs of it by now, whatever now is, under 30. But actually, according to Gladwell, some of the greatest achievers never showed signs of greatness in their early life. For example, Grandma Moses didn't start her painting career until she was 78. And then she was still painting masterpieces at 100. So I wanted to include, there was a lot of research in the book, This Chair Rocks, about how you can keep growing neural networks throughout your life, and you can keep growing your physical muscles as well through training. She does less on like diet and exercise and stuff because she says she wants to fight the bias that somehow it's staying physically strong and looking young should even be a goal. But she does say cognitive challenges can make a difference. And she says that those little games that they have people play to keep their brains strong, those don't necessarily work, but doing authentic work that involves learning new things and problem solving does. And hooray for us, playing board games and bridge. People who play board games, bridge, and do partner dancing show less cognitive decline over time. The book Immunity Response by Dr. Joel Fuhrman and also How Not to Die by Michael Greger are filled with tons of scientific research that link one very simple thing: eating vegetables, especially leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, to drastic reductions in disease, which show correspondingly longer life expectancies. So, again, you know, I read these things, but then I was having trouble kind of going back and finding exactly where I read them. But 15 minutes, she says, just 15 minutes of exercising every day is correlated with longer lifespan. And I would leave you with invest time in your friendships, your social networks, and staying mentally active, because those are the best ways to have both quality and quantity of life. Thanks very much.